Hello everyone, and thank you very much for tuning into this demo video about how enterprise automation with SAP can optimize your business processes. Today we're looking into the business area of Procure-to-Pay and showcase you how you can leverage SAP Build, Integration Suite and Signavio to streamline purchase requisition approval process for your buying center. As always, we start the scenario with SAP Signavio, which allows us to evaluate procure-to-pay processes. In particular, we leverage Signavio Process Insights to identify inefficiencies and bottlenecks and retrieve recommendations to pre-build content, which is either available in SAP S/4HANA or the SAP Build store. We activate the content in SAP Build Process Automation, which is a pre-integrated workflow to create and approve purchase requisitions in an S/4HANA cloud system. We can modify and configure this template, but we can also proactively trigger an integration flow in the SAP Integration Suite to connect to any backend system. In this case, we leverage a content modifier and advanced entity mapping to replicate the purchase requisition inside SAP ECC. Now let's jump into the system. We start with SAP Process Insights to evaluate our entire process landscape and identify areas of improvement. As you can see, the environment allows us to look into our business processes based on end-to-end scenarios or lines of businesses. In this case, we jump to the area of source to pay, where we can see the related process flows that are associated to procure-to-pay, performance indicators, and innovation recommendations that can improve our situation. By clicking on one of these sub-processes, we retrieve the information that 42% of purchase requisition items are being generated manually. This is something that needs to be improved ASAP because it affects more than 3,000 documents. So let's look into the innovation recommendations to see how this can be improved. We get introduced to a pre-packaged content on SAP Build, which is called Purchase Requisition Approval Process. Like all of our other business content, this package is publicly documented on the SAP Business Accelerator Hub, where we can review all the artifacts and get proper instructions on how to implement this process. As a process developer, you can also activate this content within the SAP Build store. Therefore, we go to the Build lobby, where we can review our historic artifacts or generate new applications, processes and business sites from scratch. By clicking on the store, we can see more than 490 different artifacts, and one of them is the previously recommended purchase requisition approval process, which we can see here. After we acquired the process, we can go ahead and start modifying and configuring it in this low-code, no-code development environment. By simply moving pre-built process activities in this graphical layout designer, anyone can produce customizable business processes. Here we support advanced process activities such as approval forms, custom decision logic, controls and events, email notifications, and even RPA bots that can be executed locally. We open the default request form to trigger a purchase requisition approval process. As you can see, this workflow formula can be easily modified by adding additional UI elements like text fields, numeric input fields, table views, and even content upload functionality to submit a document. So once the user is clicking on the submit button, we continue with the next steps. In the next steps, we execute other process steps such as business rules to determine the right approver based on the purchasing organizations, conditions to handle requisitions with different company code, and approval flows to keep the human in the loop. Once all the prerequisites are fulfilled, we trigger an action project to submit the purchase requisition into an S/4HANA system fully automatically. And also another action to forward the data to the SAP Integration Suite for further processing. So let's jump to the Integration Suite to see what we can execute. The Integration Suite gives you a lot of freedom to integrate your process or application to any backend system and generate very sophisticated integration architectures. We generate a completely new integration flow from scratch to replicate the purchase requisition document to an ECC system via the SOAP adapter. We define SAP Build Process Automation as the starting system in this visual flow canvas and select HTTPS as the connectivity method. Now we can complement the connectivity details like the address and the method of authentication. In the reference section, we add a mapping in order to perform the data transformation from OData to SOAP. So it is really useful to have the integration suite here because it allows you to do so many things to transform the data, enable custom logic, or leverage a massive collection of adapters and connectors that are readily available. We add the message mapping because the input API can vary from the SOAP call that we want to execute later on. After we amend and transform the data, we send our final request to the ERP system and define a response body and finally deploy the integration flow to make it available to our process developers. Thanks to the native connectivity between SAP Build Process Automation and SAP Integration Suite, I can easily generate a new action to trigger any iFlow within my Integration Suite tenant. And once I have generated this connection, I can then reuse it within my process logic. That means at any point of time in my process definition, I can proactively trigger an iFlow from my Integration Suite tenant for further processing of my workflow data. And now we can go ahead and trigger the process. Therefore, we jump into the point of view of a business user to enter all the relevant data to trigger the purchase requisition flow. We enter data like company code, cost center, purchasing organization, and all the relevant line items. Once finalized, we click on Submit to initiate a process instance. A process administrator can also jump into the monitoring to review the current status of the process. We see a running process with all the respective context data and that it's waiting for a manager's approval in order to continue. As a next step, the manager jumps to the inbox applications and reviews all the available task notifications. We see the requisition that was just requested, verify the input data, and click on the Approve button. Once that is done, SAP Build Process Automation posts the purchase requisition to an S/4HANA system fully automatically and triggers the integration flow for further processing.